Have you been struggling with sleep, specifically insomnia, and you just feel like you would love to nap, but even trying to just get 20 minutes in the afternoon feels so unbelievably unattainable? Or maybe you're even just wondering whether or not napping is or isn't a good idea. Or maybe you were always a napper and now that feels so out of reach. Just know that these are all unbelievably common questions and concerns to have. And before we get into it, if you do not know me, my name is Fiona. I'm a recovered chronic insomniac, and I once had all of these questions too. I personally was never really a napper, even though I grew up in South America, a culture that definitely, I guess, prides itself on napping. I remember even workers post lunch always taking their afternoon snooze like underneath trees. Anyway, that was definitely never really me. However, I never really had a negative relationship to napping. But once insomnia took hold on my life, I was constantly so unbelievably tired all the time, specifically post lunch, more like 3 or 4 p.m., that I genuinely really tried to nap. And as you may know, the harder I tried, the more it backfired. And then simultaneously, I was getting all this conflicting advice as to whether or not napping was even a good idea. I know that if you're Googling your insomnia, you're probably asking Google, I don't know, therapists, doctors, whether or not you should or should not nap. And everybody's going to give you such conflicting advice. And I want to deep dive this in a little bit more detail as someone who's now dedicated in helping other people recover from insomnia naturally. I'm going to give you my own perspective on this. Again, take everything with a grain of salt. I truly believe that insomnia recovery is not always, I guess, individual, but you do have your own individual journey and you need to find things that truly work for you. Okay, before we actually deep dive as to whether or not you should or should be napping, I do quickly want to go over how insomnia is actually perpetrated. I truly believe that the more you understand the cycle of insomnia, and even if I'm starting to sound like a broken record, the more you'll also understand the thoughts and emotions that are actually tied to this experience. I know that it feels unbelievably isolating and it can feel very lonely at times. However, insomnia is actually manifested and perpetrated quite similarly from person to person. Of course, our experiences are still very much unique, but the more you understand how or why this is actually happening, the more you can also work in reverse to heal this relationship with sleep. So, what is insomnia? Insomnia, in very simple terms, is the misidentified fear of wakefulness, meaning that we have falsely identified being awake or not sleeping as something that isn't somehow threatening for our survival. Our primary focus as humans is always to keep ourselves safe from any present moment threat or any future unwanted situation. So everything we do when it comes to insomnia is to try and avoid that discomfort of not sleeping. However, when we are in our fight or flight response, like in our central nervous system, this is our internal body's ability to keep us safe. It is no different to the activation of how we would feel if we were chased by a lion. This is, of course, the complete opposite situation to where when sleep happens. This is why when you lie your head down at night, you probably don't feel tired. Or when you think about sleep, you start feeling a little bit anxious, or you feel, I don't know, agitated, angry, sad, whatever it may be, a huge amounts of emotions around sleep itself. That is insomnia. And the reason why it's so important for us to understand how insomnia is perpetrated is because once we understand how insomnia is perpetrated, we can also understand our intentions and whether or not napping is or is not a good idea. So now that we know that insomnia makes us believe that sleep is this thing that needs to be chased and attained in some way, we always need to come back down to the intention behind why we do things in relation to our sleep. So when we are looking into insomnia recovery, we have this idea around sleep efforts, right? Are we doing things because we genuinely enjoy them, or are we doing them in, I guess, a way to catch up on sleep or make sleep happen? And because sleep is this completely passive process, and we are, I guess, now conditioned that not sleeping is somehow dangerous to us, we're gonna try our best to avoid that situation as much as possible, and also try and maybe implement metrics or even napping in order for us to actually attain the sleep that we want. So if you feel like you are not someone who used to nap, or now you're considering napping, I would almost reframe that question and ask you back, what is the intention behind you napping? I understand that you're tired. I understand that you're frustrated. I know how emotionally exhausted this can feel. However, intention behind sleep is everything. If you lie yourself down at, say, 4 p.m., hoping and almost as an experiment to see if you can get 30 minutes of sleep, and every single minute that goes by and you don't attain that, it's actually just contributing to that hyper arousal. Every single time that we're focused on making sleep happen, we are contributing to the idea that wakefulness is something that needs to be avoided. So this is where intention truly is king. You need to really understand your intentions and behaviors around sleep. And I'm not saying don't try to nap. I'm just saying maybe reframe and rephrase how you approach these situations. Secondly, if you are someone who used to nap and now it just feels like you're never tired, just know that this is also completely normal. We are stuck in a state of hyperarousal or hypervigilance, meaning our body is running on a lot of adrenaline and cortisol, which are actually hormones that will mask that feeling of sleepiness. No, this is in no way harmful for your body and for your survival. This is actually our body being incredibly smart and resourceful towards keeping us safe from a threatful situation. However, this threatful situation is one that we need to reteach our brain that isn't in fact real. So if you are trying to nap in the middle of the day or late afternoon and it just feels like it's unattainable, or that you're not even tired and you used to always nap, just know that this is also completely normal. And again, sleep is always something that is going to come to you. In fact, a lot of the work that I do directly with my clients is how do we allow ourselves to truly almost relearn how it feels to be sleepy. And we're not always going to feel that sleepiness, and it may not even be that present. But the more we can actually tune into just allowing sleep to come to us, it is no longer something that we need to chase. If you do feel like you've received quite conflicting advice around napping in general for insomnia, just know that this is completely normal. CBTI, which is still considered the gold standard treatment for insomnia, which I may add is where I take a lot of inspiration for my coaching and for my own recovery. But now I've paired it with also acceptance and commitment therapy, which I truly believe is where you see true lasting and long-term results in terms of healing that relationship with your sleep. Is CBTI implies that if you were to nap, you're reducing your sleep drive. So there's 3 predominantly main factors that control your sleep, which is your sleep drive, which is like the accumulation of the need to sleep that you accumulate throughout the day. So if you were to nap, that almost like gets reduced and you'll feel less sleepy at night. Second, your circadian rhythm. And 3, your sleep need, which is like your individual biological need for how much sleep your body needs, which is really such a personalized metric. You do not need 8 hours. A lot of people honestly mostly need 7. But again, these are your 3 main factors. However, CBTI implies that you should avoid napping. And the reason why I'm a little cautious to simply tell you not to nap is because if you feel like you want to nap and you're doing that out of the kindness for yourself, or you genuinely just feel sleepy and feel like your body is telling you that it's okay, then I wouldn't encourage you not to do that thing. In fact, the gentler and kinder you are to yourself in this process, the more you can actually let go to that rigidity and harsh rules and restrictions that you have already created around sleep. Insomnia is hard enough. The rules that you are setting for yourself in your own mind are already enough, which is why I'm a little bit, I question CBTI's purpose in like not letting you nap, because it truly also comes down to the intention as to why you are or are not doing things. Anyway, sorry about the long spiel. I really hope this in some way made sense. And I guess to sum it up, just remember that it all comes down to intention. It's all about moving away from rigidity, from all of these rules that we have created around sleep, and to truly move in the direction in which we can heal our relationship with sleep and wakefulness and allow sleep to come to us instead of actually chasing it. Anyway, if you like this video, I would really appreciate if you gave me a like and maybe even left a comment. Simultaneously, if you have a question regarding insomnia and your own recovery, please also drop that below, and I promise to get back to you probably within 24 to 72 hours. Anyway, bye for now.